Welcome to this afternoon's video for crypto trading Saturday, the 23rd day of September 2017. Welcome. My name is Derek. Let's go over some of these cryptos. Everything you do is your own risk and own reward. And I believe that risk reward management is job number one. So let's start off within what I see as the largest percentage gainer for the day on charts that I can show on TradingView, which happens to be EBST eBoost, up so far about 40% from the day. We're looking at the daily term time frame. When these things go, I mean, look at this move in just one day. The low for the session and at around 3,000 and something, 3,500, up to over 80,000. That's about 20x in one day. The volatility movements, to say that of extreme, well, for sure. Even some of these smaller moves, whenever it's been breaking above the 18 average of highs, has transpired into good selling events. Now the question is this time different? We need to see the rising 18 average and some sort of good momentum after it, because this break above it was when the average was flat, barely declining. This one when it was totally flat. Starting to rise, coming back, nope. Starting to rise in here, coming back, and you know what? Maybe this thing has the potential to get going, but I'm going to rest this on the word maybe as we go on further. Let's take a look at the biggest loser that I can find for the day, which is codes that are found on this particular trading platform. But before I do that, I have just forgotten. I mean, this volume is something of interesting note that this could be start of a change of trend, and that means breaking this sideways consolidation. We'll see how this moves on. Now let's, again, the lowest one is code BTA, only down 2.77%. Basically, it's down the most over the last 24 hours. So around here, it was up to this 5,000 Satoshi level and a small retracement or normal retracement thus far down to 17, or that of about 32% or 30% or such. Definitely a wild, a choppy, moving market, which means lots of opportunities for day trading within this. We can see in here how large volume has came in towards this market. Since then, it's made one higher low, two higher lows. Will this be a third? Well, yeah, a third higher low. And this higher high, lower high, matching high, higher high. Of course, when you got all of these weird or these choppy moves as we see it here, it gives great opportunities for having, of course, sell orders in place. Let's take a look at this on a short-term time frame. And this is the 60-minute, which shows how fast these things can move, where it comes down from 14,000, breaks this resistance, and then in a span of 1 hour, it goes from 16,000 to 20, a gain of about 25% in one period. Volatility extreme to begin, and then this red candle of a sideways consolidation. The next hour, it comes up to the 24,000 Satoshi mark, another extremely volatile down session, another extremely volatile up session, and then the volatility sense has decreased a little bit within this gradual decline, because I've heard so often traditionally within the markets, whether it be the stocks, the gold markets, or any of the old school traditional style markets, that markets go down a lot faster than they go up, meaning the amount of gains you get in stocks, say over 5 years, you could lose in like 5 months. The amount of gains you get in 5 weeks, you can lose in like less than a week. It's like the completely opposite within these cryptos. The amount of losses that you get in like 5-6 weeks, you can get back in like 3 days. It's just wild how these movements are coming into play. Let's take a look next at Bitcoin in itself. It's up 4.22% for the day, up to 37.65. And it's hanging in there with the newly declining 18 average of lows. Its volatility, of course, hanging in there, lowering itself, and just hanging in there around the 35 to 37, 38, up to under 4,000 would merely just flatten out this band, neutralize the down move a little bit more, which most certainly is definitely stronger than playing in a downtrend. Still has to get decently above this for you to give a decent short-term conviction going forward, and definitely reason to be concerned, but not reason for me to panic by any means. Not even close, not even maybe, if price action goes down below here, because then you'd be talking about maybe another retest of this 3,000 and maybe even a little deeper towards 2750, 28. This is a very strong support level, so I do expect that if it does manage to have a move towards here, then it's got a better than a 50-50 chance of having at least some sort of bounce towards that level. Of course, if that's the case, the way I look at the playbook, or my book anyway, as I haven't written it, is if it comes in towards here or matches into this level here, this is the support level that I would expect to be resistance. Now, all that means for me is nothing as far as my holding of Bitcoin, because it's the base currency I use. I'm not really doing much as far as buying and selling it on the Tether. And it's just, okay, so that's how it's doing. But as far as the trading principles, especially if I use this type of analogy on different codes, if I see a market fall down towards here on an area I know is a relatively strong support mark, I would generally be looking to put a sell target in at 35.50, or where this line would happen to be, because that's usually what happens. Markets will go back to where it comes from after, of course, you're talking about an area which is key support. Let's look at this on the 60-minute time frame. And within such, we can see the fall from the 41.20 high on the 18th down to about a little over 35. And since this point, since it's declined, what attempts has it made to end the bear market, but more importantly, start a bull one? Well, band flattened out, had lame ass attempts to break above it, and then ultimately failing, but really holding support, pierce below, but you know what? Didn't hold. Oftentimes from failed moves can create fast moves in the opposite direction. Yeah, not really this time, although it was still a good trade buying if you were able to sell in here. But the next attempt to revert the trend, resistance established in here, although key resistance was still established towards this point as well, comes back to the band, has a nice clear break, and then in here, this is where it failed on its support test, and after it claimed it failed, decent size leg lower. And of course, this was just resisting the band, never got out of it. Had a small attempt getting out of it here, but obviously went way down after that fall. But within this last run over the last couple dozen or so periods, break in here, and after the nice green candle move higher. Okay, I just stopped the tape because of a phone call, so I don't know where I just finished, but I do remember I was finishing this off. And I was going to finish this off with the fact that it's had an ability to come back to this band after breaking this key resistance point, looking as if it wants to make that lift higher. So bullish tendencies looking to come into play, and it's already resisted this key point again. That definitely more room to be a little more optimistic on the price increase going higher. Let's move on to the code I talked about yesterday, which was first, or start rather. It's start. Although there is a code called first. And this is the daily time frame, and a few days ago it just had a wild, sick move, going from around 900 and change Satoshi all the way up to about 34 and change, better than a 3.5 times increase, giving back about 60% of its value, still priced well lower than where its high happens to be, coming in on some pretty interestingly large volume. Now, I managed to talk about this within my strategy of buying and selling yesterday, talking about some key sell orders and buy orders, and shorten out the time frame and take a look further. And this is the 15-minute time frame, and yesterday I had purchased some tokens or some coins in at this 1263 handle, and the market shot up. And if I was more aware of what was going on at the time, or if I wasn't sleeping then, I suppose I could have been able to make a trade. I ended up selling over 292 at 15 and a quarter, which worked out to be roughly right in here. Of course, I didn't buy back in here. I was sleeping. Didn't sell anything else. I can buy back now at a cheaper price at the 1375 Satoshi level, but I'm not going to do such. And the reason, and I'm not even going to put another buy order in, it's because I already have this one in place. So if there happens to be any fall, I'll just pick up what I can on this. So for this one here, this would be filled. And now I look at the spot at 2179. You know what? That's a decent pierce above here, so that will stay in line. I could sell some more in here. If I did that, I think I would first want to buy back here. And I do that with some situations or some strategies. I can buy, and what I would buy is either, if I sold 292, buy about 300, which means you get about 8 for free as I look at it. And then it's a little bit of a Bitcoin in profit with price action at about 150 points lower than the 1525. I could get about 27 or 28 tokens or coins for free on top of it. So I could technically buy about 320 or so for around the same price that this filled order at 1525 was filled. And by doing such, then I would put a sell order. And I probably should have went closer to this number in the first place anyway, because when you look at the 1650 handle, when we go back to the daily, we can see, well, 1600, boom, boom, boom. So many times that level was hit. So be it. Starting off this play with a small trade to begin the venture to see how this plays out over the next little while. I think one of the big reasons I wanted to bring this, other than to show it, is because I think there's a decent chance there will be some movements other than when you have stuff like this happening, like nothing going on for that matter. Take care and have yourself a great weekend. Bye-bye.